Welcome back to another episode of Mama and Her, the place where faith, motherhood, and community meet. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Shannon.
And we are so happy that you have decided to join us, whether you are just tuning in a quick bit, if you're chasing kids, or maybe you're cleaning up, or maybe you're even winding down. We're just glad that you are here and happy that you are part of our community.
Today's episode is all about celebrating the bold moves that shape our lives. We're joined by a woman whose story embodies courage, resilience, and faith. She's a fellow athlete, a mentor, a speaker, a powerhouse with the Toronto Raptors as a director of basketball advancement, and a boy mama navigating an unconventional path with grace and strength. We are so excited to welcome Dr. Lacy Carmen Johnson, also known as Dr. Elsie J.
Yes.
To Mama and Her. Yeah. Thank you for saying yes and being here. We're so grateful you're
yes,
here. You
welcome.
made time for us.
No, I appreciate y'all having me. Definitely been tuning in, and so super excited to get to be here, not on the couch, but in the chair next to you all.
I know a little bit about your story. I know Shannon knows a lot about your story, but our community at home listening may not know anything about your story. So let's just start from the beginning. Tell us a little bit about who you are and how it got you to Toronto, Canada.
Ooh, I don't know if we have enough time, but I'll do my best. So I am, as we mentioned before, I'm born and bred in the great state of Texas. Sometimes a little bit embarrassed about how we're acting right now, but yes, I'm a Texas girl through and through. Actually just did like a little photo shoot for my birthday, and I had my cowboy boots so I was like super excited about that, to bring that back out. But yeah, actually, I left Texas in 2009 and haven't looked back other than just, going for visits and seeing family and whatnot. And that's where we kind of make home for the summer. But I think my grandmother put it best at one point when she was looking at me and my kid, my oldest son. She was like, gosh, I just never expected you to be a mom and you to be in this position. And I think part of it was like, oh, you're so selfish. But I like to think of it as I was the one that was just like super ambitious. And so when I left, like there was no turning back. It was always like, what's going to be bigger? What's next? How am I going to get there? And like, what vehicle am I going to use to make it all work? And sports was that for me. So,
love that.
Started coaching, did that for many years, then moved in kind of the sport administration, like student athlete development, academic realm, and then got into player development, which is what brought me here. I remember I got the call or the email from the Raptors, and I thought it was a joke. I was like, okay, let me check the signature and the actual email to make sure it all matches and it's not like spam. And then I had to look up the person's name, and I'm like, I don't know if this is real. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll like take this call. And, a year later, here we are. And it's been 4 seasons, just finished up with the Raptors, and live a very chaotic, interesting life with my husband and our 3 boys here.
Can you just break down player development? Because I think some people might not know what that entails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let me be clear. I handle kind of off-court player development, which we title basketball advancement. So reimagining what that looks like, I think, in the space. I do not coach anybody to shoot the ball, dribble the ball, put the ball in anybody's basket, getting points. Like that's not.
You're off the hook.
Let me be very clear, because the way my LinkedIn DMs and all of the things that I'm getting when people are sending me their basketball resumes, and I'm like, that's not me. Mm-hmm. I don't have anything to do with that. So yes, I really kind of operate in the intersection of like service and development. So making sure folks are operationally like where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, but then also helping to like identify those growth areas of potential like that are going to help them on the court, but that's also going to help them in life. And then helping with brand, just overall growth, and really helping to set up that now and that platform that they have and what they're going to do next. So
I feel like, especially as a mom, is there a bit of that motherly instinct that almost has to come in, like connecting with, we're talking some guys as young as like 19, 20, right? Straight out of college, new to the league, rookie status, and needing guidance. And I would imagine like you bring a certain level of definitely wisdom, and groundedness, especially in a world that is pure chaos, when these young men are thrown into the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, I definitely say that like mother or working with athletes taught me how to be a mom, and then being a mom has helped me be better and more understanding of being able to give chance after chance to, you know, thrive in this environment, sometimes survive for some folks, and then, you know, to help them to also thrive as well. And so it's a level of grace. I don't know if I would look at it and say like, oh, it's the nurturing, mothering, because sometimes I try to get away from that, especially as a woman in this industry.
Male-dominated industry.
Yeah, like you don't want to always be like the soft person. And I think you can ask some of my athletes like, what I'm going to be is a truth teller, and I'm always going to keep it 100. Like every single time, and like I'm gonna love you hard, but I'm also going to make sure to help to steer you in the right direction as well.
Can you just, because we skipped a little ahead a bit, but can you just talk to us about how your journey to motherhood quickly, like, because you have 3 boys, again, all different, you know, different stories and whatnot. Can you bring us back to your journey to motherhood?
Yeah, so with my oldest son, it's interesting because all of my son's names kind of have like significance as to like where I was, you know, in that part of my life. And my oldest son, so I've been doing this for over a decade. He's 11 and a half now. He's my height. We wear the same size shoe. I feel a type of way about it, yes. But when it took a while for us to get pregnant with him. And so his name is Ace Dominic. It's one of the Lord. And speaking of reading the Bible, you know, in Samuel, it said, for this child I have prayed. And so that was like the verse that I really, you know, kind of meditated on throughout my pregnancy. And it was the verse that I posted, like when I was announcing that he was here. And so his dad actually passed away when he was 3, almost 4 years old. So we've had, you know, kind of an interesting journey where for a while it was just us. And then I met my current husband, and we moved pretty quickly, but it was one of those things like, okay, well, what are we doing? And like, are we fully bought into this? And like from day one, that was the case. And it's very true. Like when you know, you know. And ended up having our second son, Duke. And I think both of us were like in that leadership era of our lives where we were just very strong, like in our careers, making a lot of moves. We had both kind of like taken different positions and like growth and elevation. And so like Duke means leader. And then as we moved to...
I thought he might have been named after the school, the basketball program.
Oh, no. And then we got to Toronto, and in the process of moving here, in between Duke and our youngest son, Jax, we experienced 2 miscarriages, one that was pretty traumatic. And then as I actually showed up to go to a specialist that my doctor referred me to, we go through all of the procedures, or not procedures, but all the conversation of what we're supposed to do. And she calls me back like a week later, and she was like, you're really pregnant already again. And I was like, oh, okay. So be fruitful and multiply is what we continue to do. And so baby Jax, he is 18 months now, and Jax means God is gracious.
Wow. What a journey in motherhood over the last 11 years. I want to ask, going back to your first son, how was that balancing being a young mom and then also mourning your husband and essentially being a single mom, but also a widow? How was that while also juggling a career?
Yeah. You know, my mom once asked me like, oh, how do you do it? And I was like, well, there's no other option. What do you mean? And she was like, no, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be able to, you know, kind of deal in the same circumstances. And I didn't understand that, I think, until most recently, because in the college landscape, there's been quite a few, not quite a few, but there have been more than necessary like women who have lost their husbands, whether they've been coaches, administrators. Actually, my son's godfather passed away as well. So, and he was an administrator in the college landscape. And so, like, kind of seeing how other women are dealing and handling in those situations, it's like, okay, well, everything that God puts you through, it's for a reason. And so there was a very specific reason why we chose this family to be godparents. And like, there's even now a stronger connection, you know, in that. Right. But I think just like navigating with him, like from the beginning, it was always, we're a team. That's what I told him. Like, from that day on, it was like, all right, we got to figure out how we're going to do this, how we're going to make, navigate this. And I'm sure like probably telling a 3, almost 4-year-old isn't the best thing. But like I have videos of him like pulling in the trash and, at 4 years old and looking at who he is now as an 11-year-old, it really like personifies like being the ultimate teammate. And it's something that I've like truly like stuck by, not only as myself, but like how I want to envision the people around me as being the ultimate teammates, like in my life, me being the ultimate teammate for them, and hoping to just continue to like build on that, and being what the world is kind of missing right now, and being ultimate teammates to each other.
Yeah. The way you speak, you definitely have that athlete mentality, coach mentality. You didn't really touch on your athlete years, but how did you being an athlete prepare you for this and these moments and motherhood? How would you say that helped you?
I was like never the best athlete. I mean, at least I wasn't the best athlete. And I think in my mind, I don't always give myself the credit that I probably should. I was a Division I track and field athlete, so
I mean that's pretty. I saw a picture of you hurdling.
I was pretty good. Qualified for what is nationals now, and I was a walk-on athlete too. So you always
that's even harder.
Yeah, and it's like that chip on your shoulder,
absolutely,
right? That mentality that I'm not the best, but I may not have the best talent. But one thing people are not going to be able to do is outwork me, and they weren't going to have like the same type of heart that I needed to give. And so, even playing basketball, like had one of the top teams in the state of Texas in high school, and a lot of my teammates went on to play like Division I basketball and whatnot. And so it's like cool to understand like what your role is in those spaces. And I think that's what a lot of being an athlete taught me. It taught me how to be competitive. It taught me how to win. But I think most importantly, it taught me how to fail and how to fail forward. And so that's something that like I'm always going to bring as I move into like the different steps and areas of my life, because like things aren't going to be perfect, but guess what? I'm going to figure out a way and I'm going to make it work.
Absolutely. But you know what? I think the factor that you mentioned, you being a walk-on, and then you kind of noting like, okay, I can see that I may not necessarily be like the number one recruit per se, but that chip on your shoulder, that underdog mentality, I truly believe, and I can relate to that because I had the same too myself in the world of volleyball. I think that grows an unwavering level of tenacity and resiliency, and it carries over outside the court, outside the field, outside the pitch, whatever you want to, and it overflows into our lives, whether it be as career women or whether it be as even as moms. But that resiliency, lo and behold, is what you needed as you prepared to. Little did you know what was on the horizon in the next season of life for you. Going back to your son, you and your firstborn son, because you mentioned the growth, like watching him from 3 and then to where he is now at 11. And you've added 2 more beautiful boys, but it's different, I'm sure. It's a different relationship that you have with him because of what you guys went through?
Yeah, most definitely. He wrote my birthday card this year. He was like, thank you for always being there, especially when it was just us, like when the times were hard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's always gonna hit different. You know how they say like you don't have, or you're not supposed to have favorite kids like as a parent. I think you just love all of them differently. Like there are different things about them. And so like this here is kind of like my thought of the boys. But like Ace is like my thumb, like he's my just that strong piece. Duke is my leader. My pointing finger, and like Jax is like my strength and that perspective that I didn't know that I needed. And it's like you don't have your pinky, like you don't realize how much you need it until you don't have it. Yeah, but it's also I love you.
No, you know what I admired? So I met you at a coaching clinic with Hoop Queens, and I remember seeing you standing at the front, and then I looked at the back, and all your 3 boys were at the back, and I was so impressed. Like, I don't know, not to say I don't like bringing my kids places, but that stress of thinking of, I know you do it a lot because you don't have a choice, right? That's what you do. And
that's what you do.
It's just like I have a choice, and often I don't bring them places. But I was so impressed just how you carried yourself, and like even just how I was like, wow, like you're a mom, but you're this powerful woman who has dreams, who's making moves, and I was just so impressed. And I just think like, I don't know, I just think you're someone who just changes a narrative for women and moms that I never really thought of, because I see you in a space that I would love to be in, but to think of like, my kids are over there in the corner, but I think we'll touch on this later, but how did you juggle, you know, this massive career change into a professional league with your kids and balancing, I guess, your marriage and all that stuff? Like, how did you find that shift and that change?
Well, I think to like take a step back, I look back at like my mom, my aunts, my grandmother, you know, they were all like working women. They were married. Like, I think I just chose a path of sports. And so I knew that, okay, if I'm going to be married and like I want a family, okay, then I'm just going to make it work, and I'm still going to like do sports. And so with like Ace grew up. Ace was a 5-year-old college student, right? He's hanging out he's coming to study hall. Like, he has been from the baby carrier on, like, he has been at work with me. Yeah. I think the other two haven't been able to experience as much, because in moving into like the pro space, like, not saying that there's not as much access, but I'm traveling more, I'm gone more, like on game days I have responsibilities, so you can't just like come and hang out in the back, or if they do come to the games, they sit in the stands, and like I can come and say hi, I can bring you some snacks, and then like I gotta go because there's something else that like, you know, needs to be done. But you just kind of like, you manage it, and my husband does not work in Canada. So that adds like a completely different layer to...
Yeah, we'll take 2 steps back then. Break that down, how you work for a pro team in Canada. Your husband is back in the U.S. in Texas or in a different state?
He's currently working like out of Indiana.
Okay.
Yes, which is where we were before we moved to Toronto. And so when I remember when he made the move from Texas to Indiana, I told him, I was like, look, I don't plan to be here forever. So like, I don't know where we're going next, but like, I'll take these kids and like, we'll be making a move, and like, we're going to have to figure this out. Like, it wasn't going to be that I had to choose my relationship or I had to choose my career. Like, that was a non-negotiable for me within our relationship, because I was adamant about I was not going to take any steps back, and I also didn't expect him to take any steps back. We're both very faith-driven, so in our mind, it's like, we'll figure it out and we're going to make it work. So when we moved here, it was still COVID, so we had the opportunity where he could kind of, you know, work virtually. And my mom came up with us, and she was like a huge godsend, you know, for us, because we didn't have to pay like nanny, childcare, all that. Like, she was just here. She made sure the kids were fed. She kept us fed. There was a stable body in the household and whatnot. And so, you know, now we've like had to make some adjustments. We do have a different childcare setup. My husband is like now traveling quite a bit with his job. So like,
is he in athletics as well?
He is in athletics. And so if you look at like his calendar, and like he has his work calendar, my work calendar, our family calendar, the kids stuff. So it is like, it's true chaos. Like I tell all the time, we're a circus. We are a walking circus. If y'all saw us when we traveled down to Women's Final Four, like we're a circus. He took 2 of the kids down the day before. I took the baby down because I had a game the night before. I went down that morning. He had to speak that morning at the same event that I was going to. I showed up. He picked me up from the airport, or picked us up from the airport. We get to the hotel, and then I had to speak that afternoon at the same event. And it's like, there's literally a picture of like the baby walking up to me in the middle of the speaking engagement, which Shannon just mentioned about how like we bring our kids because we believe in showing our kids like the impact that can be made. And it was a handoff. Like I had the baby, and there was kind of like a visualization period for some of the athletes that I was working with. I had the baby, and then it was like time for me to talk again. And so I handed the baby off, and like there's a literal picture of it happening. And if like, that's not your chaos life that I that I live in. And my other kids are in the back with their headphones on watching, their iPad. And I think the oldest is like, he always has his headphones in, but he's listening. Like he's listening, he's paying attention. And they, like, he hasn't quite figured out what he wants to do, with his life. He's 11, other than I want to be a professional athlete.
Right.
But he has always said, like, I want to do something that makes people, like, feel the way that y'all do. It's not necessarily that he wants to work in the same type of role that we do, but he wants to have that type of impact. And it's like, look, I'm doing something right in this world.
That is profound. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's just so nice to see that. And you just own it. And that's the thing. It wasn't, you didn't say, oh, sorry, my kids are in the back. Like you didn't, yeah. And I just love that. And I think even when I see Kayla bring Kennedy everywhere, and I'm like, good for you. Like, good for you. You know, and there's opportunities I should. And I think you guys will not see the benefits of that in your children until a little bit later, but it's, I love it, and I sing your praises, and I really want to do more of that, because it's okay. It's okay, you know, to bring your kids along, you know, and they adjust so well. When will. I said, I'm like, Kennedy's so, like, I could never, like, even when my kids came to Hoop Queens for the first time, I hadn't coached at all since they were born. So this was the first time they saw me coaching. Yes, they were running across the floor, you know, while my coaching partner, her kids were just sitting there because they're used to it, right? Yeah. So it's all about teaching and giving them that opportunity. But anyways, I love that. I love that about you.
Yeah. Like you said, you know, when it was just you and your first, like you said, what choice do I have? But then now that you have a choice as well, but that you're this walking,
lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for us.
Walking circus, but it's a lifestyle. Exactly. Yeah. At one though, that, like you said, I think in time they'll understand and they'll be better off for it. I believe that, you know, now you have this large, beautiful family and you guys go everywhere. But you had mentioned that at one point, you know, your career, which was, I'm sure, an opportunity of the lifetime, saying, hey, I'm getting the call up. I have this opportunity with the NBA, with the Toronto Raptors, but that's going to require me to pack up me and potentially all of you, and we're going to go to Toronto. But then your husband also having his own strong career in and of itself. And can you talk to us more just about, like, how that worked itself out? Because the idea of leaving or moving states or moving countries or cities, what have you, can sometimes, like, that would probably be a point of contention for some couples.
Yes. But as someone, I think, who has, like, journaled a lot and written down kind of like what I wanted goal wise, whatnot, I knew I wanted to live in a different country at one point. And I also said I wanted to live by water. Now, in my mind, I thought I was going to be moving to, like, the Bahamas, not to Toronto.
Not Lake Ontario?
Not Mississauga. No. But I do live a block from the lake, and that has been, like, a bit of a saving grace for me, you know, quite a bit. I'm not swimming in it, but it's very much a grounding source for me. But I think that, like, my husband, like, we understand each other. We understand each other's goals and our desire to, like, truly impact the spaces that we're in. And we know that, like, it's gonna take true teamwork. Like, he also is a fellow college athlete. Funny enough, we're both hurdlers as well. So, like, you know, dealing with barriers is just kind of like the way that we operate in life.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended at all. We're gonna run right through them. But yeah, we just make it. We find a way to make it work. Yes, have we had some support? Absolutely. You know, with my mom, like, are we in a space that, like, financially we can help? We can pay for additional help and to, like, outsource some of the other things that, like, I just don't care to do, like anything domestic, like cooking and cleaning. I still do cook. I don't like to clean. Very clear about that. But we make it work, and the people that surround us, not just, like, our support system, but also the folks that we work with and work for, they understand the dynamics, and they're here to, like, support, because I think they both see the value in what we bring to each of our individual organizations. And it's like, all right. So we're going to find a way to be able to, like, help and navigate that. And I remember there was someone that I used to work with at the Raptors once told me, like, oh my gosh, I remember when you came in, probably one of the first couple weeks after you had moved to Toronto, and something happened with the childcare, and you had to bring my middle son, who I think was he was probably 14 months at the time. Wow. And, you know, like, trying to find a daycare at that time was, in COVID, not going to happen. Okay. So I had to bring him with me. He's sitting in the office. He's, like, quiet as a mouse, which is not the same Duke that exists to this day. But, like, she was looking at me and she's like, I don't know how this is going to work. Like, not with this role, not with this job. Like, this is probably not going to work out in her favor the way that she thinks. And she straight up told me, like, 3 years later, she's like, I look at you and I see you thriving in this, and I see, you know, your kids who have just, you know, grown in this community, and the impact that you're making, and how other women see you, and it's, like, giving them the space to know that they too can do it. And it's not, I don't live my life to, you know, have other people do and emulate what I do. I just want to live my life to have other people be bold and like live authentically as themselves. So whatever that looks like for you, own it. This is what our life looks like. This is our crazy. I'm trying to tell you, not everybody can live in this crazy, but we love it. We're going to continue to thrive in it. And that's that on that.
Not that this is a marriage like counseling session, but just curious for those people who are married, what like the importance of communication with you too. Cause I like even just hearing your schedules, just how important has that been for your relationship? And obviously you have such a supportive husband and partner. And I don't know if that, you know, it's not always the case, right? But how has communication helped you in your marriage and for both of you to thrive in your dream jobs and your careers?
And like stay on the same page.
Yeah, so I think it's like two different types of like communication. The like operations piece of it where everybody needs to know where each person is so that like no kid is not
left
picked
behind.
up. Yeah, no kid is left behind, or you know, somebody isn't picked up from the airport or whatever the case is. Like that is like to a science. I mean, it's down. If it's not down, there's like a side eye from the other person, even if it's like 2 months out, like why is it on the calendar? Why can't I see it? You know, I need to be able to like visually put all of these things in line. And then there's just like the other piece of the communication of understanding your partner as a person and like in the marriage piece of it. So yes, like from an actual marriage therapy standpoint, like we see a therapist to make sure that we are on the same page and like having to be able to work through that. As great of a communicator as I am, like from an operational standpoint, from like the work standpoint, like that's something that I've like struggled with is like, okay, this is what I feel. This is what I need. This is like, am I like loving in your love language that allows for you to feel like wanted and desired as well. And so that's like that fine line, that balance that is like constantly needing to be worked on. But that's also the understanding that each person has to take accountability for where they are in it and where they falter. And like, I will be the first to admit, like I'm not always the greatest at that. Probably I'm definitely like the lower, the non-better half on that portion of it.
You mentioned like, you know, it takes work, therapy, and that's as like partners, right? That's as husband and wife. And how do you feel like navigating parenthood too, right? Like you know, and I'm sure Shan, you can relate to, you know, ebbs and flows of maybe feeling like at some points like a roommate with your husband as opposed to being your actual husband, right? Because you're just in the thick of like, well, listen, the kids the kids come first right now because they're so little. Can you speak to that season?
Look, I was pregnant, I think 5 years straight from like 2019 to 20. Or sorry, maybe 4 years straight. Now, so I like used to make a joke, and I said in 2024, one place I'm not going is labor and delivery. Not happening. And it's simply because I had like several miscarriages, like before Duke, and then 2 in between Duke and Jackson. So like there's, you know, a lot of like little baby angels that are always like looking over and like watching over us and whatnot. And I'm grateful for those experiences, even though they were like super like tough. But I think that it's always going to be teamwork with him. I'm so grateful like for him. You know, I like to say I'm the ultimate teammate, but he truly is like my ultimate teammate as well.
Yeah, he sounds like your perfect pair.
He is.
And your perfect, wait, that doesn't make sense. He sounds
My
like
perfect
your
match?
Your perfect half or match. Yeah, perfect pair, because then he's like 2 of him. So talking about working, did you have any mom guilt, you know, taking on this career? And obviously it was a big career change and maybe a dream job that you got.
You mentioned it's been a year, or did you say 4?
4.
It's 4 seasons.
4 seasons. Oh, okay.
Yes.
No,
So
because
4
I was
years.
just thinking, because your youngest right now is 18 months.
Yes.
And so like I'm thinking even to myself, being in season while pregnant and having a job where you have to essentially make sure you are on top of a roster of grown men. And like, you know,
You are really a boy mom.
I
Yeah,
am.
truly.
I am.
Through and
Dim boys. Dim boys is
Dim
my
boy.
little boys, and then the big Them
big boys.
Yeah, I was doing a exercise with our players last summer with some of our incoming or our rookies from this past season, and so we were talking about time management and whatnot, and having them draw out some different things. And so I had my pie chart, and I had like an area for them boys, and I said them big boys, and they're like, "Who's them big boys?" And I was like, "Y'all." Like, this is where I spend my time. Yeah, I think that my husband and I do like different like check-ins with each other, like one-on-one, to see like where we are like within our marriage, but also like from a parenthood standpoint. And I think that's like been super helpful, like to, there's like good cop, bad cop. There's, trying to understand like how to parent each of our kids in like the different seasons. And then even what that kind of looked like dealing with postpartum, and like how he could best support me through all of that, and like going through loss, and like how to support one another, through that, because it's not just me that's like dealing with it. Like, yes, it's happening like within my body, but also like this is someone who is like, been along the way and along the journey as well. But I like think about the times how each pregnancy was different, each postpartum journey was different, and like how the support helped along the way, but then also the professional piece of it and like navigating that was so completely different for each one of them. And going through this last experience was, while I felt like I wasn't necessarily a fan of like the Canadian way of doing things, but it ended up being the best thing for me. And I can see that now on the other side. And I'm truly like an advocate for women to get the support that they need, to have the time off that they need, and to truly mother how they want to. Some women want to go back to work. Some women want more time off. Right. And that's not for anybody to judge in your own shoes or judge somebody else's shoes.
Yeah. You mentioned having, like, you have great joy with your 3 boys, but then you've also experienced the complete opposite and great loss with your miscarriages, and like you said, with your angels. How was coping? And especially because there was that gap, like you said, of 2 in between your middle and your youngest. Did your faith ever falter?
No, not at all. Like, after what was my 3rd miscarriage, and it caused me to completely black out. I ended up having to be rushed to the hospital, had a blood transfusion, like all of the things that like could have gone wrong. And I remember once I finally made it back home, I really and truly thought about, like, God gave me another opportunity to live, because had I not been with my best friends in that time, I might not be here today. Wow. And so like that just gives you a different perspective on life, right? And then to end up pregnant, I think maybe 8 weeks later, was something I was not expected. And then to go through that pregnancy, and I ended up with, being in like high risk for essentially most of the time, having to do like all of these different things, and it just had me like so nervous that like something was going to go wrong. Yeah. And being in season and not wanting to like tell anyone, because you don't want to seem soft in this male dominated world. You don't want to.
You got so much mental gymnastics going on.
Yeah, and like just trying not to like be big and pregnant and like, hiding it, and knowing that I had already had to do that before with like some of my clothes, because I was pregnant again during the first part of the season. So I feel like I honestly felt I spent like all of 22, 23 season like pregnant. Like, I was pregnant on the front end, I was pregnant on the back end of it, and then had the baby and
hiding it.
I know, and hiding
a lot of hiding
the entire time. I remember when the guys came back that summer, they were like, "Whoa, what is this?" I'm like, "Yeah." See, what had happened was, but that's what happened with my second too, because I had first shown my belly at work the day the world shut down for COVID.
Wow.
And so there was a lot of people that weren't there that Friday. And then by the time we all made it back into the facility, I think that October, November, I had a 4-month-old baby and they're like, where did this come from?
Hilarious.
You mentioned being soft, and I use like air quotes around it, soft in a male-dominated industry. And I'm sure that maybe women in our community right now that work in male-dominated spaces can relate to that. How do you balance that? Because you have this feminine, motherly instinct about you, having gone through what you've gone through, but then working in a space where sometimes that's good, but then sometimes it's like, I can't let them see that side of me.
Oh, it's a struggle. It's a very like crazy space to try to navigate. It's one thing for me to work in the NBA right now. Okay. It is much more progressive and forward when it comes to having women in this space. But one thing, like I haven't talked about at all, but I worked in football for 8 years. So
College football?
College football. Okay. And if
Way
you know anything
less
about,
progressive.
not way less, like the only, okay. Like you're like my mentor and I talk about, first, only, different. And that's something that I've probably carried through so many places so many like roles throughout my career. And so like you don't have anybody else to really lean on, and especially anybody else like with kids. If they are, it's like maybe a younger woman who is just trying to get into it, and then they're looking at you like, how do you balance this? How do you do, X, Y, and Z? And I'm like, I'm just out here making it work. I'm literally winging it every day, and there's no plan, no blueprint. I'm really out here we just figuring it out. So I think being over in the NBA, and it's a blessing to work in a team that truly values having women in this space. And I can't say this because I haven't seen the statistics, but I've seen enough women around the league to understand that I think we have hands down the most women on the basketball side in the league. And like, it's something that we're really, really proud of. And you look at us and like, we're all over the place with, women who have kids, women who don't have kids, women who have older kids, women who are going through maternity leave right now and like having to like navigate all of this like as an organization. But it is tough as a woman to know that sometimes when you walk in rooms, like you're just going to be judged and people are going to put their own biases in front and say, regardless of how qualified you may be for X, Y, and Z, we're going to take the person who's a little less risk than you.
Ooh. Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's real. That's real. That's something that I have dealt with at every stage in my career, but it's also, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table, and it makes me work so incredibly hard to like show that and like have those receipts. But at the end of the day, like I can't control what other people do. So I know that God is always going to go into the rooms before me. Where I'm supposed to be is where I am. The roles I'm supposed to occupy is where I'm going to occupy. And so even now, as I try to figure out, okay, transition wise, like if there's something that's next, like, do you continue to build out here? Do you like grow, expand? Like, what does that look like? I don't know. God got it because I got enough going on with my circus.
with your circus. Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, I think that's amazing because I remember I asked this question, I think, to a previous guest where, it feels like in the past, like maybe if you look back 10, 15 years ago, being a mom was like a detriment. And I'm sure you probably felt that in that season, like you said, when you were working in football, maybe because unfortunately, like you said, first or only, right? But do you feel like now, and perhaps that's also because of the environment that you're at, like with a team that is very welcoming and leans into it, that it is a superpower of yours now?
I've always looked at it as a superpower. I looked at the fact that I'm a Black woman in sports as a major superpower. Like I got a PhD, so nobody could ever tell me that I wasn't qualified.
Come on.
And I wasn't the smartest. I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'm definitely one of the most educated. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
Sorry for
that's okay.
That's okay.
But I know that like what I bring, I understand what I bring to the table. And I'm also okay with building my own table if I have to.
And you're definitely paving the way. Even like I said, just seeing you and just how you carry yourself and your integration of your family and your kids. But you're also a mentor. You mentor me. And I've learned so much about you, like so much about myself and just seeing how you live your life. But why is mentorship so important to you to mentor the younger generation of women and girls?
Because I didn't have it. I didn't see women who were like me in places and spaces that I wanted to be in. And then some of the women that I did see, I didn't necessarily see myself in them.
Right.
And so what is it? Be what you can't see. Like I'm always going to like try to pay it forward so that if someone can avoid the landmines that I had to deal with, like that's going to save you years on your career. I don't look at my career like, if I would have stayed here, then I could have been X, Y, and Z. Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I want to be able to help other people to get to where they're supposed to be. I have always had like kind of like just a mentoring group, and it was men, women, all races. But as of recent, and I think just maybe with the most recent like U.S. election, like I really had it's almost like a burden on my heart that like I knew I needed to cater to women because it is so tough when you work so hard and you feel like you're not seen.
We have to wrap up. But before we do our final 5.
Yeah.
Just rapid fire questions that you will answer organically and just however you feel.
In a sentence, in a word, whatever comes to mind. All right. So first question is, motherhood is?
Organized chaos.
What is the best advice about motherhood you've ever been given?
Do it your way.
What is the worst advice you think you've ever been given?
It's not a piece of advice, but is anybody who's ever given those little pajamas that have the snaps
that don't have zippers?
Yo, zippers only. Okay?
Zippers only.
Zippers only.
Facts.
I don't know who created that, but that's the worst.
I think I've probably, in hindsight, I've been guilty before I became a mom of gifting those. I will never, ever again to anyone
It's the
else.
worst.
It is.
I'm having flashbacks
Yeah.
when I couldn't get
It's like at 2 a.m, trying to find which button and realizing it's the wrong
and then
one.
in the morning the buttons are all off.
all
and you're like,
crinkled. Yep.
Okay. I wish my mom told me.
To love me first before loving others.
That's good. And what would you tell your younger self if you could?
It'll never turn out like you wished for, but it'll be everything that you needed in that moment.
I really like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Lacy, thank you so much for saying yes, for coming by, and honestly for sharing not only your wisdom, but your story. Like super inspiring, extremely resilient, and like Shannon said, just a very inspiring person, like across the board. So we appreciate your time. And I'm sure our viewers like took away some kind of gem in these 60 minutes, probably multiple gems, but no, we really appreciate your time.
No, this was dope. Y'all are doing some amazing things, and I just appreciate you giving more mamas the opportunity to tell their story.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. And especially because like you're the epitome of someone, like it may not be quote unquote conventional, but you're doing it and you're thriving and you're doing it well
and doing it
well. Exactly.
Where can people find you on the socials if they want to follow?
I am Mrs. MRS Coach Lacy on all the platforms.
Awesome.
Amazing. Lacy, thank you so much. And yeah, as far as our community goes, you already know where you can find us at Mama and Her Podcast. We appreciate you. Every like, comment, every subscription, we appreciate it. And we appreciate you always tuning in. So on behalf of Shannon and myself, we'll see you next time.